Welcome to my Channel Deep Sleep Mission-DSM. As we begin, I would be delighted if you could share your location in the comments below. It's truly inspiring to witness how far this content travels and to connect with viewers from across the world. The first time I saw them, I thought my roommate Emma was playing a prank. Small, delicate handprints pressed against the bathroom mirror, still dripping with condensation. The kind you'd make as a kid, pressing your palm flat against the glass after a hot shower. Except Emma had been in Boston for 3 days visiting her parents, and I lived alone on the 4th floor of a converted Victorian in Portland, Maine. The windows were painted shut. The door was still locked from the inside, and the handprints, they were on the outside of the mirror, facing in. If you're listening to this late at night, maybe pause and check your bathroom mirror real quick. I'll wait, because what happened to me started so innocently, I almost missed it, and by the time I understood what was really happening, well, let me tell you the whole story, but first, make sure you're comfortable. Maybe grab an extra blanket. And whatever you do, don't look too closely at any reflective surfaces while you listen. The story begins now. My name is Sarah Chen, and I moved to Portland right after graduating from UMaine. Got a job at a local bookstore, found this gorgeous apartment in the West End. Life was good. The building used to be a single-family home back in the 1890s, all original hardwood floors and those thick plaster walls that actually keep sound out. My unit had this beautiful clawfoot tub in the bathroom, vintage hexagonal tiles, Instagram perfect, you know. I'd been living there for about 6 months when it started. It was a Tuesday night in October. I remember because I'd just finished watching the latest episode of that true crime podcast everyone was obsessed with. Went to brush my teeth before bed, flicked on the bathroom light, and there they were. 2 perfect handprints on the mirror, right at eye level. My first thought was annoyance. Emma must have come back early and not told me. She had a key for emergencies, and she was always doing stuff like this, leaving little surprises. Once, she rearranged all my spice jars alphabetically. Another time, she left sticky notes with motivational quotes all over my apartment. Harmless pranks, but pranks nonetheless. I grabbed a towel and wiped the mirror clean, grumbling about boundaries. The prints came off easily, leaving streaks of water on the glass. Fresh. Really fresh, like someone had just pressed wet hands against it moments before I walked in. That should have been my first clue. I texted Emma. Very funny with the mirror. When did you get back? 3 dots appeared immediately. Still in Boston? Mom's making me look at wedding venues with her. Why? A chill ran down my spine, but I pushed it away. Must have been the landlord, Mr. Kowalski. He was always finding excuses to check on things. Worried about the old plumbing, though he usually gave notice. Did Mr. K stop by today? I texted back. No idea. Why? Is something wrong? I stared at the streaky mirror, at the ghost of those handprints still visible in the right light. Nah, just thought I heard someone earlier, all good. But it wasn't all good. Something felt off. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you can tell someone was just there. The air feels different, disturbed. That's how my bathroom felt. Like someone had been standing in that exact spot, looking into the mirror, pressing their hands against the glass. I double-checked the apartment door. Locked, windows all secure, nothing missing or moved. I even looked in the closets like some paranoid person in a horror movie. Everything was normal, except for those handprints. That night I barely slept. Every little sound made me jump. The radiator clanking, the upstairs neighbor's cat padding around, the old building settling. Around 3 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. Flicked on the light. The mirror was clear. Of course it was. I'd cleaned it hours ago. But as I washed my hands, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me through the glass. You ever get that sensation? Like the mirror isn't quite reflecting what it should? Like there's a delay, just a fraction of a second between your movement and your reflections? I leaned in close, my breath fogging the glass. And that's when I saw it. In the condensation from my breath, the faintest outline of fingers appeared. Not mine. These were underneath, on the other side of the mirror, as if someone was pressing against it from behind. I stumbled back, heart hammering, rubbed my eyes, looked again. Nothing. Just my own terrified face staring back at me. I spent the rest of the night on the couch with every light in the apartment on. The next few days were quiet. No handprints, no weird feelings, nothing. I started to think I'd imagined the whole thing. Stress from work, maybe. The bookstore was gearing up for Halloween, and I'd been working overtime setting up displays and organizing author events. Yeah, that was it. Just stress and too many horror stories. By Friday, I'd almost forgotten about it. Emma was back from Boston, and we grabbed drinks at our usual spot on Exchange Street. She spent the whole night complaining about her mother's wedding obsession, and I didn't mention the handprints once. It felt silly in the warm glow of the bar, surrounded by people and noise and life. I got home around 11, pleasantly buzzed and ready for bed. Did my usual routine, locked the door, kicked off my shoes, headed to the bathroom to wash off my makeup. The handprints were back, but this time there were more of them. Both hands pressed against the mirror over and over, creating a pattern that looked almost desperate, like someone had been pounding on the glass trying to get through. Water droplets ran down from each print, pooling on the sink counter. I sobered up real fast. "Hello?" My voice cracked. "Is someone there?" Silence. I checked behind the shower curtain. Empty. The window was still painted shut. The door had been locked. I would have heard someone leave. The bathroom was tiny, maybe 50 square feet. There was nowhere to hide. But those handprints, they were so fresh, I could see individual fingerprint ridges in the condensation. I backed out of the bathroom and grabbed my phone. Almost called 911, but what would I say? Someone left wet handprints on my mirror. They'd think I was drunk or crazy. Instead, I called Emma. "Can you come over? Like, right now? Sarah, what's wrong?" I could hear the concern in her voice. Please, I'll explain when you get here." 20 minutes later, she was at my door with her overnight bag and a baseball bat she'd grabbed from her car. God, I loved her. No questions asked, just showed up ready to fight whatever was scaring me. I led her to the bathroom. The handprints were still there, though starting to dry at the edges. Emma stared at them for a long moment. "Okay, that's weird. And you checked everywhere?" "Twice. You didn't." "No, I've been at that wine bar on Market Street all night. Have the Uber receipt to prove it." She reached out like she was going to touch one of the prints, then pulled back. "They're on the wrong side." "What?" "Look." She pressed her own hand against the mirror, leaving a print. "See? When you touch a mirror from this side, the print looks like this, but these other ones, it's like they're reversed, like someone pressed against the mirror from the other side." We both stared at the glass, at our reflections, at what might be behind them. "That's impossible," I whispered. "It's a mirror. There is no other side, just wall." Emma was already moving, heading out of the bathroom. "Where's your toolbox?" "Under the kitchen sink. Why?" She came back with a screwdriver. "We're taking this mirror down. Right now." It took us about 20 minutes to carefully remove the mirror from the wall. It was heavier than expected, that old-fashioned kind with actual silver backing. We leaned it against the hallway wall and looked at what was behind it. Nothing, just wall. Slightly water-damaged plaster from years of bathroom humidity, but solid. No secret compartment, no hidden space, no explanation for those impossible handprints. We spent that night in my living room, the mirror still propped in the hallway. Neither of us wanted to be alone. We didn't talk much, just sat there watching Netflix with the volume too loud, trying not to think about what we'd seen. Around 4 a.m., Emma had finally dozed off on the couch. I was still wide awake, staring at nothing, when I heard it. Dripping. Slow. Steady, like a faucet not quite turned off. I looked toward the hallway where we'd left the mirror. Water was pooling on the hardwood floor beneath it. Not from any pipe or leak, from the mirror itself. Drops of water materializing on the silver surface and rolling down, leaving wet trails like tears. I didn't wake Emma. I just sat there, watching water drip from a mirror that had no reason to be wet, and wondered what I'd invited into my home. Saturday morning came too bright and too early. Emma woke up around 8, took one look at the puddle under the mirror and said we were calling her cousin Marcus. He was a contractor, she explained. He'd know if there was something wrong with the plumbing or the walls or whatever was causing this. While we waited for Marcus, I did what any millennial would do. I Googled it. Wet handprints on mirror, mirror dripping water, hands appearing in reflection. The results were not comforting. Lots of Reddit threads about hauntings, a few creepypasta stories, and one deeply unsettling article about something called mirror scrying that I closed immediately. Marcus showed up around noon. A big guy with kind eyes and paint-stained jeans. He listened to our story without judgment, then spent 2 hours examining every inch of my bathroom. Checked the pipes, tested the walls for moisture, even brought in some kind of electronic sensor that beeped at random intervals. "Your plumbing's fine," he finally announced. "No leaks, no excess moisture in the walls. That mirror shouldn't be wet." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "My grandmother used to say mirrors could be doors sometimes. Maybe you should, I don't know, maybe you should put it back." "Put it back?" I stared at him. "Are you serious?" He shrugged. "Look, I fix houses for a living. I believe in what I can see and measure, but I also grew up listening to my Babsia's stories about the old country, sometimes." He glanced at the mirror, still dripping steadily onto my floor. "Sometimes things are better left alone, or, better yet, put back where they belong." After Marcus left, Emma and I sat in my kitchen, debating. The rational part of me wanted to just throw the mirror out, be done with it. But another part, a deeper part, whispered that Marcus might be right. What if removing it had made things worse? What if whatever was on the other side was now uncontained? "We could try one thing," Emma said slowly. "My roommate in college was into all that paranormal stuff. She always said mirrors could trap things. Maybe we need to, I don't know, communicate, figure out what it wants." It sounded insane, but the puddle in my hallway was getting bigger, and I was running out of towels. That evening, as the sun set over Casco Bay, we sat in front of the mirror with a candle and a notepad. I felt ridiculous, like we were about to conduct a seance or something. Emma had found some instructions online about mirror communication, which basically involved asking questions and watching for responses in the reflection. "Is someone there?" I asked, feeling foolish. "Nothing. Just our faces staring back, distorted slightly by the old glass." "Do you need help?" The candle flame flickered. "Probably just air from the heating vent." "Why are you leaving handprints?" And then the mirror began to fog up. Not all at once, but in patches, like breath on cold glass. Letters appeared in the condensation, written by an invisible finger, F-I-N-D-M-E. My blood turned to ice. Emma grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. More letters appeared, faster now, overlapping. C-O-L-D-S-O-C-O-L-D-C-A-N-T-G-E-T-O-U-T-P-L-E-A-S-E. The messages came faster and faster. The mirror fogging and clearing and fogging again. Words appeared and vanished before we could read them all. But one phrase repeated over and over. I-N-T-H-E-W-A-L-L. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The mirror cleared. The dripping slowed, then ceased. Everything was quiet except for our ragged breathing. "In the wall," Emma whispered. "Oh my God, Sarah, what if—" But I was already moving, grabbing my phone, pulling up the Portland Press-Herald website. My fingers shook as I typed in search terms. Missing person, Victorian House, West End. It didn't take long to find. An article from 1987 about renovations in the neighborhood. About workers finding something terrible sealed inside a bathroom wall. About a young woman who'd vanished in 1962 and whose remains weren't discovered for 25 years. Her name was Alice Dunmore. She'd been 23, a nursing student at Maine Medical. She'd lived in a boarding house. This boarding house, before it was converted to apartments. She'd disappeared one October night, and everyone assumed she'd run off with some boy her parents didn't approve of, but she hadn't run anywhere. Someone had put her in the wall, right behind where the bathroom mirror would hang. I looked at Emma. She was already pulling up more articles, her face pale in the phone's glow. "Sarah," she said slowly, "they found her in 1987. But when did they renovate this place into apartments?" I knew the answer before I even looked it up. 1987. So they found her, removed her, and then immediately covered it back up with new apartments. "With your bathroom?" We both turned to look at the mirror propped against my wall, at our reflections, at what might be trapped behind that silver surface, still trying to get out after all these years. That night, I made a decision. Not the smart decision, which would have been to pack my things and never look back. Not the rational decision, which would have been to call the police or a priest or someone who dealt with this sort of thing professionally. No, I made the decision that felt right in my bones. I was going to put Alice Dunmore to rest. Emma tried to talk me out of it. "This is how people die in horror movies, Sarah. You know that, right?" But I couldn't stop thinking about those desperate handprints. About a young woman trapped for decades, trying to communicate through the only barrier between her and the living world. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She just wanted to be found. Really found. Not just discovered and plastered over again. We called Marcus back, told him everything. The articles, the messages, our theory. I expected him to laugh or hang up. Instead, he was quiet for a long moment. "My grandmother always said the dead don't rest when they're hidden," he finally said. "I'll bring my tools and my priest if you want." "No priests," I said quickly. "This isn't about exorcism, it's about—" I struggled for the right word. Acknowledgement. Monday morning, while my neighbors were at work, Marcus and his crew carefully opened up the bathroom wall. Not the whole thing, just a section behind where the mirror hung. Emma and I watched from the doorway as they worked, the sound of hammers and saws filling the small space. They found her almost immediately. Not remains. Those had been removed in 1987, but they found the space where she'd been. A hollow in the wall, too deliberate to be accidental. And in that hollow, they found things the 1987 crew had missed or ignored. A tarnished locket. A nurse's pin from Maine Medical. A small leather journal, water-damaged but still partially readable. The journal broke my heart. Pages and pages of Alice's neat handwriting, talking about her classes, her patients, her dreams of becoming a surgical nurse. The last entry was dated October 15th, 1962. "Mrs. Garrett says I shouldn't trust him, but she doesn't understand. He loves me. Tonight, he's going to help me leave this place. We'll go somewhere nobody knows us, somewhere we can start fresh. I'm scared, but excited. By tomorrow, I'll be free." She never made it to tomorrow. We spent the rest of the day going through proper channels. Called the Portland Police Cold Case Unit. Spoke with a detective who seemed unsurprised that construction in old houses sometimes revealed dark secrets. Alice's case had been closed after her remains were found, but the journal was new evidence. Maybe they could finally figure out who he was. That evening, after the police had taken their photos and the wall was temporarily sealed with plastic, I sat in my bathroom with the mirror. It hadn't dripped since we'd found Alice's things. The surface was dry, clear, reflecting only what it should. "We found you," I said quietly. "People will know what happened now. You won't be forgotten again. Was it my imagination, or did my reflection shimmer for just a moment? Emma helped me rehang the mirror. It took both of us to lift it back into place, to secure it to the wall with new screws. When we stepped back, it looked exactly as it had before. Just a vintage mirror in a vintage bathroom. Nothing special, except... As I was brushing my teeth before bed, I noticed something in the corner of the mirror. A small handprint, not wet this time, but etched faintly into the silver backing itself. A permanent mark, barely visible unless you knew where to look. But instead of desperate or frightening, it seemed peaceful. A goodbye, a thank you, or maybe a reminder. I still live in that apartment, still use that bathroom, still see that faint handprint every morning when I brush my teeth. Emma thinks I'm crazy for staying, but I can't explain the strange comfort I feel knowing Alice is finally at rest. Her story is known, her voice was heard. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder about all the other mirrors in all the other old houses, about what might be trapped behind them, trying to break through, about the voices we don't hear and the hands we don't see. But I try not to think about it too much, because mirrors are everywhere, in bathrooms and bedrooms, in stores and restaurants, in the phone you're probably holding right now, and once you start looking for what's behind them, well, you might see something looking back. Last week I got a text from Emma. Just a photo, no message. It showed her bathroom mirror, foggy with steam from the shower, and there, in the condensation, a single word written by an unseen finger. THANKS. I guess Alice found a way to move on after all. Or maybe she found a way to move through. Mirror to mirror, searching for others like her. Others who need to be found. Others who are leaving desperate handprints on the wrong side of the glass, waiting for someone to notice. So, next time you see unexplained marks on your mirror, next time the glass fogs up when it shouldn't, next time your reflection seems just a little bit off, remember Alice Dunmore. Remember that sometimes the scariest things aren't the ones trying to hurt us. They're the ones trying to tell us something. And maybe, just maybe, we should listen. Now, I have to ask, have you checked your mirror lately? Really looked at it? Because I've been getting messages from listeners all week. Pictures of handprints they can't explain, mirrors dripping in dry rooms, reflections that don't quite match. If you've experienced something similar, let me know in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And whatever you do, don't ignore the signs. Because Alice's story might be over, but I have a feeling there are others out there, pressing against the glass, waiting for someone to notice them. Sweet dreams. And remember to check your mirrors. Story number 2. The last thing Ethan Blackwood ever recorded was 17 minutes and 43 seconds of silence. But in that silence, if you listen closely, really closely, you can hear something breathing. I found his equipment 3 days ago. The microphone was still warm, still recording. The laptop battery had died, but the backup recorder, it captured everything. Everything that happened after Ethan stopped talking. I shouldn't have listened to it. I definitely shouldn't have kept the files. And I absolutely shouldn't be sharing this with you right now. But you need to know what really happened to one of the podcast's most beloved voices. Because the truth is so much worse than what the police are telling you. All right, the story is about to begin. Get comfortable. Turn off the lights if you dare. And whatever you do, don't pause the recording. Trust me on that one. My name is Sarah Chen, and I was Ethan Blackwood's producer for Whispers After Midnight, the podcast that had just hit 5 million downloads. We'd been working together for 3 years, and I thought I knew him better than anyone. Turns out, I didn't know him at all. It started on a Tuesday, October 15th. I remember because my coffee maker had broken that morning, and I was already irritated when Ethan called me at 6 a.m. Sarah, I found it. he said, and his voice, God, I'd never heard him sound so excited, so alive. I found the perfect location for our Halloween special. I rubbed my eyes. Ethan, it's 6 a.m. I know, but listen, there's this old radio station in Millbrook, Pennsylvania, WKLL 88.3. It's been abandoned since 1987, but get this, the equipment is still there, still intact. We could do a live recording from an actual dead radio station. I sat up in bed. Despite my exhaustion, I had to admit, it was a brilliant idea. Our Halloween specials were always our biggest episodes, and recording from an abandoned radio station, our audience would eat that up. How did you even find this place? I asked. There was a pause. Just a beat too long. Does it matter? Sarah, this is going to be huge. Can you meet me there tomorrow night? I want to scout it out, test the acoustics. Something in my gut twisted. Maybe it was the lack of coffee, or maybe it was something else. But I should have said no. I should have suggested we wait, do more research, bring a bigger crew. Instead, I said, text me the address, I'll be there at 8. The drive to Millbrook took 3 hours. 3 hours of Pennsylvania countryside getting darker and more isolated with each mile. My GPS lost signal twice, and I had to rely on Ethan's hand-drawn map for the last 20 minutes. When I finally saw the radio tower jutting up against the October sky like a metal finger pointing at the stars, I almost turned around. Almost. The building itself was smaller than I expected. A squat, concrete structure with a faded sign that read WKLL The Kill, where music lives. Someone had spray-painted over lives with dies in red letters. Real subtle. Ethan's car was already there, parked at an odd angle like he'd been in a hurry. The driver's door was open, interior light creating a small pool of yellow in the darkness. I parked next to him and grabbed my flashlight. Ethan? I called out. My voice seemed to get swallowed by the night. Ethan, you here? No answer. The front door of the station was ajar, hanging off its hinges. Beyond it was pure darkness. I could hear something inside, a low electrical hum, like equipment that had been left on for decades. I should have called the police, should have gotten back in my car, should have done literally anything other than what I did next. But Ethan was my friend, my partner, and I was worried, so I went inside. The smell hit me first. Dust and decay and something else. Something organic and wrong. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing a narrow hallway lined with faded concert posters and gold records covered in grime. Ethan? I tried again, my voice barely above a whisper now. A door at the end of the hall was cracked open and I could see a faint glow coming from inside, not electric light, something softer, warmer, like candlelight. I pushed the door open with my foot. The room beyond was the main studio, and Ethan had been busy. He'd set up battery-powered lanterns in a circle, creating an island of light in the darkness. In the center sat the original WKLL mixing board, and behind it, Ethan. He was wearing headphones, hunched over our portable recording setup, completely absorbed in whatever he was doing. Jesus, Ethan, you scared me, I said, stepping into the room. Why didn't you answer when I called? He didn't respond, didn't even look up. His fingers moved across the board with practiced precision, adjusting levels for... What? There was no input, no microphone connected. He was mixing nothing. Ethan? I touched his shoulder, and he jerked like he'd been electrocuted. The headphones flew off, and he spun around, eyes wide and glassy. Sarah, you're early. I checked my phone. It's 8:17. I'm actually late. He blinked, looked at his watch, then laughed. It wasn't his normal laugh. It was high and thin and wrong. Time moves different here. You'll see. Okay, you're officially creeping me out. What's going on? He grabbed my hands. His were ice cold and trembling. Listen, Sarah, just listen. He handed me the headphones. I didn't want to put them on. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me not to. But I did it anyway, because that's what you do when your friend asks you to. You trust them. At first, I heard nothing. Just the soft hiss of empty air. Then, underneath it, something else. Voices. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. All whispering the same thing over and over. Let us speak, let us speak, let us speak. I ripped the headphones off. What the hell is that? Ethan's eyes were shining with an almost religious fervor. They're still here, Sarah, all of them. Every voice that ever broadcast from this station, they're still in the air, still in the equipment. Waiting. Waiting for what? For someone to give them a voice again. He turned back to the board. Think about it. All those radio waves, all those signals sent out into the universe. Where do they go? They don't just disappear. They're still out there, bouncing around, looking for a receiver. And this place is like a magnet for them. I took a step back. Ethan, you're scaring me. This isn't like you. I've been coming here for weeks, he continued, ignoring me. Every night. Listening, learning. They've taught me so much, Sarah. About sound, about frequency, about what really happened here in 1987. What happened in 1987? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The night DJ, Marcus Webb. He figured it out too, how to tune into the other frequencies. The ones between the stations. The ones where the dead broadcast. My blood went cold. The dead don't broadcast anything, Ethan. They're dead. Are they? He flipped a switch on the board, and suddenly the studio speakers crackled to life. Static at first, then voices, clear as day. Temperature dropping to 45 degrees tonight with clear skies. And that was Every Breath You Take by the Police. You're listening to WKLL, The Kill, where music lives. Breaking news tonight as police continue their search for missing DJ Marcus Webb. The last voice cut off abruptly, replaced by a sound that made my skin crawl. Breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing. Like someone, or something, was right next to the microphone. Turn it off, I whispered. Ethan reached for another switch. Wait, listen. He's about to speak. The breathing stopped. For a moment there was perfect silence. Then, hello, Ethan. The voice was impossibly deep, seeming to come from the walls themselves. The lanterns flickered. I've been waiting for you to bring her. I ran. I don't remember making the decision to run. My body just took over. I burst through the studio door, down the hallway, out into the night. I could hear Ethan calling after me, but I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. I made it to my car, fumbled with the keys, and peeled out of there like the devil himself was chasing me. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice. I've been waiting for you to bring her. What did that mean? Why her? Why me? I tried calling Ethan dozens of times, straight to voicemail. I even drove by his apartment, but his roommate said he hadn't been home in days. On the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go back. Had to make sure he was okay. Had to convince myself I hadn't imagined the whole thing. This time, I wasn't stupid. I brought backup. My friend Jake, a sound engineer who worked with us sometimes. 6'4", former Marine, the kind of guy you want with you when you're walking into a potentially dangerous situation. This is the place? Jake asked as we pulled up to the radio station. Looks like a strong wind could knock it over. Ethan's car was still there, still parked at that same odd angle. But now there were others. 3 more vehicles I didn't recognize. He must have brought the team, I said. Relief flooding through me. Maybe they're setting up for the Halloween special after all. But Jake was already shaking his head. Sarah, look at the license plates. I looked. The cars were old, really old, covered in dust and rust like they'd been there for years, decades even. We entered the building together, Jake leading with a heavy-duty flashlight. The hallway looked different in his stark white beam, older, more decrepit, like the building was decaying and fast-forward. The studio door was closed this time. From behind it, I could hear voices, multiple people talking, laughing even. It sounded like a party? Jake looked at me. I nodded. He pushed open the door. The studio was packed. At least a dozen people, all wearing headphones, all seated at different pieces of equipment, some at microphones, some at control boards, some just sitting in chairs, swaying slightly to music only they could hear, and in the center, orchestrating it all like some demented conductor, was Ethan. He looked terrible. Gaunt, unshaven, his clothes the same ones he'd been wearing 3 days ago, but his eyes were alive with purpose. "Sarah," he beamed when he saw me. "Perfect timing. We're about to go live. Ethan, who are all these people?" He laughed. "People? Oh, Sarah, they're not people. Not anymore. They're voices, broadcasters. They've been waiting so long to be heard again." I looked closer at the others in the room. Really looked. Their skin was gray, almost translucent. Their movements were too smooth, too synchronized. And their eyes were the static-filled screens of old televisions. "Jake," I whispered, "we need to go. Now." But Jake wasn't listening. He was staring at one of the figures, a woman in a 1950s dress seated at an old microphone. "Mom," he breathed. The woman turned, smiled. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Hello, sweetheart. I've missed you." "Jake, that's not your mom. Your mom lives in Florida." "No," he said, stepping forward. "She died. Car accident when I was 10. But she used to work here. She was a secretary at WKLL in the 60s. The woman held out her hand. "Come, baby. Let Mommy tell you a bedtime story, just like I used to." "Jake, no." But he was already moving, already reaching for her hand. The moment they touched, his eyes went white. Static white. He sat down next to her, put on a pair of headphones, and began to speak into the microphone. But the voice that came out wasn't his. It was younger, smaller. "Mommy, I'm scared of the dark." "I know, baby. But the dark is where we live now." I backed toward the door, but Ethan was faster. He grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "You can't leave, Sarah. Not yet. We're about to make history." "Let go of me. Don't you see? This is what we've been building toward. All those episodes about the paranormal, the unexplained. We were preparing our audience for this moment. The moment when the veil finally drops." He dragged me to the main console, forced me into a chair. "Put on the headphones." "No. Put them on, Sarah, please. For me. For our show. For the 5 million people waiting to hear what comes next." Around us, the figures had begun to broadcast. Each one speaking, singing, or announcing in perfect synchronization. The air itself seemed to vibrate with their combined frequencies. Temperature dropping to 45 degrees tonight with clear skies. And that was "Every Breath You Take" by the Police. "Mommy, I'm scared of the dark. Let us speak, let us speak, let us speak." Ethan forced the headphones over my ears. The world exploded into sound. I was drowning in voices. Thousands of them, millions. Every word ever spoken into a microphone, every song ever played, every emergency broadcast and weather report and dedications of love. They were all here, all trying to push through me, to use me as their conduit back into the world. But underneath them all, I heard him, Marcus Webb, the night DJ who disappeared in 1987. "Fighting won't help." His voice was calm, almost soothing. "I fought for 3 days before I understood. We're not prisoners here, Sarah. We're pioneers. The first to cross over while still maintaining our signal." "I don't want to cross over," I managed to say. Or think. I wasn't sure anymore. Neither did I. But the frequency. It calls to those who understand sound. who live for it, who breathe it. People like us, Sarah. People who've dedicated their lives to the invisible waves that connect every human being on this planet. I could feel myself slipping. My physical body seemed very far away, but then I remembered something. Something Ethan had said. "The recording," I gasped. "You're still recording." Through the chaos of voices I heard it, the soft click and whir of our portable equipment, still running, still capturing everything. "Ethan," I called out. "Ethan, please. Think about our listeners. Think about what you're doing to them." For a moment, the voices quieted. I opened my eyes. When had I closed them? And saw Ethan staring at me. For just a second, I saw my friend again. The passionate, dedicated podcaster who just wanted to tell good stories. "Sarah?" His voice was small, lost. "Turn it off, Ethan. Turn off the recording. Don't let this spread." He looked at the equipment, at the red recording light, at the laptop showing our live listener count climbing. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. More people tuning in every second to hear what? What were they hearing? "They're listening," he whispered, "all of them, waiting to hear what comes next." "Then give them an ending," I said. "The kind only you can deliver." Ethan's hand hovered over the stop button. Around us, the figures grew agitated. Their broadcasting became urgent, desperate. "Don't listen to her. We need to speak. So long in the dark, let us through." But Ethan wasn't listening to them anymore. He was looking at me, really looking. "I'm sorry, Sarah," he said. I thought this was the story, but the story isn't about giving voices to the dead. It's about knowing when to let them rest." He reached for the button. The figures screamed. The building shook. The equipment sparked and smoked. But Ethan pushed the button anyway. Silence. Perfect, absolute silence. When I came to, I was in my car. Jake was in the passenger seat, unconscious but breathing. The radio station was dark, not abandoned dark, gone dark, like it had never existed at all. I drove us to the hospital. Told them we'd had an accident. Carbon monoxide exposure from a faulty heater. They believed me. Why wouldn't they? Jake recovered. He doesn't remember anything after entering the building. Says he had the strangest dream about his mother, but that's all. Ethan was never found. His car was discovered 50 miles away, abandoned at a rest stop. His apartment was empty except for one thing, our recording equipment, placed neatly on his desk. I should have given it to the police, should have destroyed it, should have done anything except what I did. But I had to know, had to hear what our listeners heard that night. So I played it back. For 17 minutes and 43 seconds, Ethan speaks. He tells our listeners about the station, about the voices, about Marcus Webb. His voice gets more and more excited, more and more manic, until suddenly, silence. 17 minutes and 43 seconds of dead air. But if you listen closely, if you really, truly listen, you can hear breathing. Slow, steady, patient. And sometimes, just sometimes, you can hear a whisper, "Let us speak." I uploaded the file yesterday, our final episode. 5 million downloads in the first hour. The comments are disturbing. People saying they hear different things. Their dead relatives, old songs, emergency broadcasts from disasters that haven't happened yet. And 3 people have reported that their loved ones have gone missing, last seen wearing headphones, listening to our show. I don't know what I've done, what we've done, but I can't stop it now. The signal is out there, bouncing around, looking for receivers. So, let me ask you something. And be honest. What do you hear in the silence? Because last night, I listened again. And this time, in between the breathing, I heard something new. A voice I recognized. "Sarah, thank you for letting me speak." It was Ethan, and he was laughing. "If you're still listening, still breathing, I need you to do something for me. share this story, not because I want views or subscribers, but because people need to be warned. The silence is spreading, and once you hear it, really hear it, you can never unhear it again. Sweet dreams. Story number 3. The wind chimes outside my bedroom window are ringing again. 3 short notes, then 2 long ones, then silence. Always the same pattern, always at 3:17 a.m. But here's the thing that keeps me awake, staring at my ceiling fan as it slowly turns in the darkness. There hasn't been any wind in Millbrook, Oregon for the past 11 days. Not even a breeze. So tell me, what's making them ring? And why do I keep hearing footsteps on my porch right after they stop? All right, story time begins now. I moved into the Victorian house on Sycamore Street 3 months ago, June 15th to be exact. The realtor, a woman named Brenda with perfectly manicured nails and a smile that never quite reached her eyes, had shown me 17 properties before this one. But the moment I stepped onto that wraparound porch, something just felt right. Previous owners left those, Brenda had said, pointing to the wind chimes hanging from the porch ceiling. They were beautiful. Brass tubes of varying lengths with what looked like hand-carved wooden pieces dangling between them. Said they were a family heirloom. Insisted the new owner keep them up. I remember thinking that was odd. Who leaves behind a family heirloom? But the house was perfect otherwise. 3 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, and that gorgeous clawfoot tub I'd always dreamed of having. Plus, the price was suspiciously reasonable for the Portland metro area. The first few weeks were normal. I unpacked boxes, learned which floorboards creaked, typical new house stuff. I even grew to love those wind chimes. They had this deep, almost melancholic sound when the evening breeze caught them. Not like those tinny ones you buy at Home Goods. These sounded ancient, purposeful. It was early July when I first noticed the pattern. I'd been having trouble sleeping. New house jitters, I figured. My bedroom faced the front porch, and I'd left the window cracked to let in the cool night air. That's when I heard it. 3 short rings. Then 2 long ones. Then nothing. I glanced at my phone. 3:17 a.m. Weird timing, but I didn't think much of it. Oregon summer nights can be breezy. I rolled over, pulled my comforter up to my chin, and tried to fall back asleep. The next night, same thing. 3 short, 2 long. 3:17 a.m. By the 4th night, I was lying awake waiting for it. And sure enough, like clockwork, those chimes sang their strange little song. But that night, I noticed something else. Right after the chimes stopped, I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps on the wooden porch boards. My heart started racing. I crept to the window, careful not to make any noise, and peeked through the blinds. The streetlight cast long shadows across my front yard, but the porch was empty. Just the chimes, hanging perfectly still in the windless night. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was a raccoon. We had plenty of those in Millbrook. But raccoons don't walk with such measured human-like steps. I started keeping a journal. Every night I document when the chimes rang, what pattern they played, and anything else I noticed. By mid-July, I had pages of notes, and a disturbing realization was forming. The pattern was changing, evolving. It started with 3 short, 2 long. Then it became 3 short, 2 long, 1 short. Then 3 short, 2 long, 1 short, 3 long. Like someone was adding to a message, building something. I tried talking to my neighbors about it. Mrs. Chen next door just gave me this worried look and changed the subject. Tom from across the street, he straight up walked away when I mentioned the wind chimes. Only old Mr. Peterson, who'd lived on the street for 60 years, would give me anything. Those chimes been on that house since before I moved here, he'd said, leaning on his garden rake. Every family that's lived there, they all leave eventually, usually around the 3-month mark. 3 months. I'd been there 2.5. Why? I asked. He just shook his head and went back to raking leaves that weren't there. That night, I decided to be proactive. I set up my phone to record the front porch. If someone was messing with me, I'd catch them. I positioned it perfectly, made sure the night mode was on, and settled in to wait. 3:17 a.m. came. The chimes rang their increasingly complex pattern. The footsteps followed. I held my breath, waiting to check the footage until everything went quiet again. What I saw made my hands shake so badly I almost dropped my phone. The video showed the chimes moving, swaying and ringing in their pattern, but there was no wind, no person, no animal. Just the chimes, moving as if invisible fingers were playing them like an instrument. And the footsteps. The wooden boards of the porch were actually depressing slightly with each sound, like someone invisible was walking across them. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when I zoomed in on the chimes themselves. In the wooden pieces between the brass tubes were symbols. Symbols that seemed to shift and change in the video, forming patterns that hurt to look at. Symbols that weren't there during the day. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. How could I? I sat in my living room with every light on, clutching a baseball bat I'd found in the garage, waiting for sunrise. The next day, I did what any rational person would do. I tried to take the wind chimes down. I got out my ladder, climbed up to the porch ceiling, and reached for the hook they hung from. The moment my fingers touched the metal, ice shot through my veins. Not cold exactly, more like absence, like touching a void where warmth should exist. I jerked back so hard I almost fell off the ladder. When I looked at my hand, the fingertips were slightly blue, like I'd had them in ice water for an hour. That's when I noticed the hook wasn't just screwed into the wood, it was part of it, like the house had grown around it. Incorporated it into its structure. I tried everything. Bolt cutters, the metal was too strong. Saw. The blade went dull after barely scratching the surface. I even considered just cutting away that section of the porch ceiling. But when I brought the reciprocating saw up, it wouldn't start. It worked fine in the garage. On the porch, dead. The house didn't want those chimes removed. That night, I didn't even pretend to sleep. I sat on my couch, facing the front door, every light in the house blazing. When 3:17 approached, I was ready. I decided to confront whatever this was head-on. The chimes started their song. By now, the pattern was incredibly complex. Short rings, long rings, mixed with these strange halftones I hadn't heard before. It was almost musical, like a melody I should recognize but couldn't quite place. Then the footsteps began, slow, measured, walking from one end of the porch to the other. I gripped my baseball bat and reached for the doorknob. The footsteps stopped directly in front of my door. My hand froze on the knob. Every instinct screamed at me not to open it. But I had to know. I had to see what was out there. I yanked the door open. Nothing, empty porch, still air, the chimes hanging motionless. But there was something different. On the welcome mat, wet footprints, like someone had walked through the morning dew. But it hadn't rained. There was no dew. The footprints just existed. And they led to my door and stopped. I slammed the door and backed away. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The wet footprints. They were on my side of the door now too, leading from the door into my house. I followed them with my eyes. They went through my living room, up the stairs, and toward my bedroom. I spent the next 3 days at a motel. I needed space to think, to research, to figure out what the hell was happening in my house. The Millbrook Library had old newspapers on microfiche. I spent hours scrolling through decades of records, looking for anything about my house. What I found made me wish I'd stayed ignorant. 1947. Family of 4 disappears from home on Sycamore Street. Wind chimes found playing despite no wind. 1963. Local teacher found dead in bedroom of Sycamore House. Cause unknown. Neighbors report strange wind chime sounds for weeks prior. 1978. Young couple abandoned Sycamore home after 3 months, claiming musical harassment from antique wind chimes. 1991. Police respond to noise complaints about wind chimes. House empty. Has been for months. 2005. New owners of Sycamore House report wind chimes play specific patterns. Family moves out after 92 days. The articles went on and on. Every 15 to 20 years, like clockwork, and always mentioning those damn wind chimes. I found something else, too. A photocopy of a journal entry from 1892, when the house was first built. The original owner, a man named Josiah Blackwood, had commissioned those chimes from a traveling craftsman. The journal mentioned they were meant to be a beacon and a doorway. But a doorway to what? I had to go back. All my stuff was there, and honestly, part of me needed to know how this ended. I returned at sunset. The house looked different somehow. Expectant. Like it knew I'd come back. That night, I didn't hide, I didn't run. When 3:16 hit, I walked out onto the porch and stood next to those chimes. I was done being afraid. I wanted answers. 3:17 came. The chimes began to ring. But this time, I could see what was making them move. Not wind, not invisible hands, but something like ripples in the air itself. Like reality was vibrating at a frequency that made the chimes sing. The pattern was incredibly complex now. It sounded like a conversation. A call and response, the chimes would ring, and then something would answer. Not with sound, but with that same rippling of air. The footsteps started. But I could see those too now. Indentations in space itself, walking towards me. Not threatening. Almost curious. That's when I understood. The chimes weren't a warning. They weren't a threat. They were a beacon, just like Josiah's journal said. A way for something to find its way to our world. Every few decades it would try again, playing its pattern, waiting for someone to answer. To complete the melody, I could feel it standing right in front of me now. This presence. Not malevolent, just other, waiting. It had been waiting for so long. The chimes rang one more time. A questioning tone, an invitation. I reached out my hand, and something I couldn't see took it. Not cold this time. Warm. Desperate. Lonely. The patterns suddenly made sense. It wasn't a message, it was a song. A duet that needed 2 voices. The chimes had been singing half a conversation for over a century, waiting for someone to sing back. So I did. I hummed the response my brain somehow knew. The pattern the chimes had been teaching me night after night. The presence squeezed my hand, grateful, and then let go. The chimes fell silent. Truly silent. For the first time in over 100 years, they were just wind chimes. Nothing more. I still live in the house on Sycamore Street. The chimes still hang on my porch, but they only ring when there's actual wind now. Whatever was trying to come through, I think it just wanted to be heard, to be acknowledged, to know it wasn't alone in whatever space between worlds it existed in. But sometimes, on very quiet nights, I catch myself humming that pattern. And sometimes, I swear I hear something humming back. The realtor called last week, checking in, she said. Wanted to know if I was planning to stay past the 3-month mark. I told her yes, definitely yes. She sounded surprised, then worried. And the wind chimes? She asked. Oh, those? I said, glancing out at them swaying gently in the actual breeze. They're fine. Just needed someone to listen to what they were trying to say. The silence on her end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Listen to me very carefully, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Whatever you did, whatever you think you've accomplished, that's not the end. That's the beginning. Those chimes weren't keeping something out. They were keeping something in, and you just gave it permission to leave. The line went dead. I tried calling her back. The number was disconnected. I drove to her office. It had been empty for years, according to the nearby shop owner. There was no realtor named Brenda. Never had been. That was 3 days ago. And now I'm noticing things. Small things. Shadows that move when there's no light source. Whispers and frequencies too low to properly hear. And sometimes in the corner of my eye I see ripples in the air. Like reality is thin in places. The first real sign something had changed came 4 nights after my conversation with Brenda. I was brushing my teeth before bed. Normal routine, nothing special, when I heard it. Not the wind chimes. Something else. A sound like, have you ever rubbed your finger around the rim of a crystal glass? That high, singing note? It was like that, but deeper, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I spit out my toothpaste and listened. The sound seemed to pulse, growing stronger, then fading, like something breathing. I followed it out of the bathroom, down the hallway. It was loudest near the walls. Like the sound was coming from inside them, I pressed my ear against the wall. That was a mistake. The moment my skin touched the plaster, I heard voices. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all humming that pattern. The pattern I'd completed, but they weren't human voices. They were older, hungrier. I jerked away, but the sound followed me, into my bedroom, into my dreams. That night, I dreamed of a city. Not like any city I'd ever seen. The buildings grew like living things, twisting up into a sky that wasn't quite the right color. And everywhere there were chimes. Millions of them. Singing in harmony. Calling something home. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. Of course I did. But this time I wasn't in my bed. I was standing on my front porch, barefoot in the cold. My hand was outstretched, like I'd been reaching for something. And in the air in front of me, a ripple, a tear, like the fabric of the world was coming apart at the seams. Through that tear, I could see something, a glimpse of that impossible city from my dream, and things were trying to push through. Not creatures, exactly, more like concepts, ideas that had grown hungry and developed ambition. I stumbled back into my house and slammed the door. But doors don't mean much when the walls themselves are becoming permeable. The next morning, I noticed my neighbor Tom's house was empty. Not just empty, abandoned, like no one had lived there for years. Newspapers piled up, grass overgrown, but I'd talked to Tom just last week. We discussed the Blazers' chances this season. I asked Mrs. Chen about it. She looked at me funny. Tom? There's never been anyone named Tom on this street. That house has been empty since the Johnsons moved out in '09, but I knew Tom. I'd borrowed his lawnmower, I'd pet his golden retriever. I had his phone number in my phone. I checked. The number wasn't there, no texts, no call history like he'd been erased. That's when I realized what Brenda meant. Whatever I'd let through, it wasn't adding to our world. It was replacing it, bit by bit, person by person, rewriting reality to make room for itself. Last night, my neighbor Mrs. Chen knocked on my door at 3 a.m. When I opened it, she was standing there in her nightgown, eyes wide and unfocused. "It's spreading," she said in a voice that wasn't quite hers. "House by house, street by street. You let it taste our world, and now it's hungry for more." Then she blinked, looked confused, and apologized for sleepwalking before shuffling back home. But that was just the beginning. I started documenting everything, taking photos, recording videos, writing down every strange occurrence. I needed proof I wasn't losing my mind. But when I'd review the evidence later, it would be different. Photos showed empty rooms where I'd captured shadows. Videos played back normal scenes instead of the impossible things I'd filmed. Even my written notes would change. Words rearranging themselves when I wasn't looking. The only constant was the pattern. That damned musical pattern, I heard it everywhere now. In the hum of my refrigerator, in the rhythm of passing cars, in the spaces between heartbeats. It was spreading like a virus, infecting every sound in my world. I decided to research Josiah Blackwood more thoroughly. There had to be something in his history that explained this. The library's special collections had more of his journals. What I found there, I almost wish I hadn't. Josiah wasn't just some eccentric Victorian gentleman. He was part of something called the Threshold Society, a group of academics and mystics who believed our reality was just one layer of many. They thought certain sounds, certain frequencies, could pierce the veil between worlds. The wind chimes weren't his first attempt. There were references to tuning forks that drove people mad, music boxes that played backwards, a piano that, when certain keys were pressed in sequence, would make the player disappear for days at a time. But the chimes were his masterpiece, his grand resonator, he called it, designed to create a permanent bridge between worlds. The journal entries toward the end became frantic, paranoid. He wrote about listeners in the walls and the hungry frequencies. His final entry was just the pattern, written over and over, filling pages. They found him 3 weeks later in his study. The coroner said he'd been dead the entire 3 weeks, but neighbors swore they'd seen him walking around the house, standing at windows, always humming. I needed help, real help. So I reached out to Dr. Sarah Hendricks at Portland State University. She specialized in acoustic phenomena and had written papers on infrasound and its psychological effects. Maybe there was a scientific explanation for all this. She agreed to come to the house, brought equipment, sensors, and recording devices more sophisticated than my phone. The moment she stepped onto the porch, her machines went crazy. She went pale, looking at the readings. "These frequencies," she said, adjusting her equipment with shaking hands. "They shouldn't exist. They're between the notes, in the spaces where sound doesn't naturally occur." She set up her gear throughout the house. We waited for 3:17. When the chimes rang, or when the echo of the chimes rang, her equipment captured it all. But it wasn't just recording sound, it was recording something else. She showed me the visualization on her laptop. The sound waves were wrong. They moved in patterns that hurt to look at, folding in on themselves, creating interference patterns that spelled out words, symbols, I couldn't tell. "This is impossible," she kept saying. "Sound doesn't behave this way. It's like something is using sound as a carrier wave for... She never finished the sentence because that's when we both saw it, in the corner of my living room. A shadow that wasn't cast by anything. It stood there, roughly human-shaped, but wrong in every detail. Too tall, too angular, and it was vibrating, humming at a frequency we couldn't hear but could feel in our bones. Dr. Hendricks grabbed her equipment and ran. I don't blame her. I haven't been able to reach her since. Her office at the university claims they've never had a professor by that name. Another person erased. Or maybe replaced. I've started sleeping in my car. The house feels too thin now, like the walls are just suggestions. But even in my car, parked blocks away, I can hear it. The pattern, growing more complex, more insistent. Last week, I drove past my old apartment complex, the one I'd lived in before buying the house. It was gone, not demolished, not replaced, just absent. An empty lot where my memories insisted a building should be. When I asked a passing jogger about it, she looked at me like I was crazy. "There's never been anything built there," she said. "City ordinance. Something about the ground being unsuitable." But I lived there for 3 years. I have photos, had photos. They show empty fields now. It's rewriting more than just the present. It's reaching backwards, erasing things that don't fit its new pattern. And I'm starting to forget things too. Names of friends I know I had. faces of family members, like my memories are being edited by something that doesn't quite understand how human connection works. I tried leaving Millbrook, packed what I could and just drove, but every road led back. Every highway curved impossibly, delivering me to Sycamore Street. Even when I took a bus, somehow, I dozed off and woken up in my driveway. The house won't let me go. Or maybe there's nowhere else to go. Maybe everywhere is becoming Sycamore Street. The transformation accelerated yesterday. I watched it happen to the house across the street. One moment it was the craftsman-style home I'd always known. The next, ripples passed through it like waves. When they settled, the house was different. Older. Its angles subtly wrong. Windows that didn't quite reflect light properly. And in those windows, shapes. Watching. The mailman doesn't come anymore. Neither does anyone else. The street feels isolated, cut off, like we've been separated from the rest of the world. Or maybe we're the only real part left, and everything else has already been replaced. I met another survivor yesterday. A woman named Claire who lived 6 blocks away. She'd noticed the changes too. The erasures, the revisions. We compared notes in whispered conversations, afraid the wrong words might speed up the process. She had a theory. The pattern. It wasn't just a doorway. It was an infection. A way for that other place to overwrite ours. Each person who heard it, who hummed along even unconsciously, became a carrier, spreading the change. But why slowly? She asked. Why not just take everything at once? I thought about it. About the loneliness I'd felt in that presence. The desperate need for connection. Maybe it doesn't want to be alone, I said. Maybe it's trying to make our world more like its home. So when it fully arrives, it'll have company. Claire laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Company? We're not company. We're furniture, set dressing. It's arranging us like dolls in a dollhouse, trying to understand what we are. She was right. I could feel it in the way reality bent now. Clumsy, imperfect, like something vast and alien trying to mimic human existence without quite grasping the fundamentals. Claire's gone now too. Her house is empty, has been empty for 20 years, according to the new history. I'm running out of people to verify my sanity against. But I've discovered something. The pattern has a counter-melody. I found it in Josiah's final journal, hidden in the margins, written in different ink, like someone else. Maybe Josiah himself, in a moment of clarity, had discovered how to close what he'd opened. I've been practicing it, humming it quietly when the walls get too thin. It helps, pushes back the changes, if only temporarily, but it's exhausting. Like holding my breath underwater. I can't keep it up forever. And I don't think I meant to, because last night I understood something. The presence I'd connected with. It wasn't the invader. It was another victim. Something from a world that had already been consumed. Trying to warn us. Trying to teach us the only defense it knew. The real threat isn't lonely. It's hungry. And it's been feeding on realities for so long it's forgotten what it means to exist without consuming. The wind chimes weren't a beacon. They were bait. And I'd bitten. I don't know what I've done. I don't know what's coming. But I can tell you this. If you ever hear wind chimes playing patterns in the dead of night, if you ever feel compelled to complete their melody, don't. Just don't. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. Some songs aren't meant to be finished, and some things that wait in the spaces between, they're better left waiting. The wind chimes are ringing again, but I took them down yesterday. I threw them in the dumpster behind the grocery store. I watched the garbage truck take them away. So why do I still hear them? Why is the pattern more complex than ever? And why can I see my breath in my bedroom even though it's the middle of July? I think something followed the song back, and now it's learning to sing on its own. The house is different tonight. The walls breathe. The floors pulse with a heartbeat that isn't mine. And in every reflection, in every window and mirror and puddle of water, I see that other city getting closer, pushing through. I've made a decision. I'm going to sing the counter melody, all of it, as loud as I can. Maybe it'll seal the breach. Maybe it'll make things worse. But I can't just wait for the end. If you're listening to this, if you've made it this far, check your wind chimes, check your windows. Check the faces of people you pass on the street. Are they the same as they were yesterday? Do you remember their names? And whatever you do, don't hum along. It's listening for others now, and it's getting better at mimicking our voices. Oh God, I just realized something. This recording, the way I've been telling this story, I've been unconsciously weaving the pattern into my words, the rhythm of my sentences, the pauses between thoughts. I've been teaching it to you without meaning to. How many of you have been humming along without realizing it? How many of you already hear the chimes? Tell me in the comments. Has anything in your neighborhood started to feel different? And be honest, did you hum along even just once? Because if you did, I'm so sorry. Story number 4. The GPS died at 2:47 a.m. Not just stopped working. Died. The screen went black, sparked once, and filled my rental car with the smell of burnt plastic. I pulled over on what I thought was Highway 89, somewhere between Flagstaff and Page, Arizona. Though now, I'm not so sure I was ever on Highway 89 at all. My phone, no signal, not even emergency calls. Just that mocking no service message in the corner where the bars should be. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes, engine idling, trying to figure out my next move. The headlights cut through darkness so thick it felt like driving through black paint. No stars, no moon. Just me, the car, and a road that suddenly felt wrong in ways I couldn't explain. That's when I saw the lights. Not city lights, not even town lights, really. More like someone had taken a handful of old Christmas bulbs and scattered them across the desert. Warm, yellow, flickering. Maybe a mile off the main road, down what looked like a dirt path I swear wasn't there 30 seconds earlier. Common sense said stay on the highway, wait for dawn, flag down another car. But my gas gauge said otherwise. Quarter tank, maybe less. And those lights promised civilization. A gas station, a motel, somewhere with a working phone. The dirt road was smoother than it had any right to be. Before we dive into what happened next, let me ask you something. When was the last time you got truly lost? I mean really lost. Not just took a wrong turn lost, but can't find yourself on any map lost. If you've felt that creeping sensation that maybe you've slipped between the cracks of reality, then you might understand what I'm about to tell you. And if you haven't, well, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because after hearing this, you'll never look at small towns the same way again. Now, let the story begin. The town materialized out of nowhere. One moment I was bouncing along that too-smooth dirt road. The next, I was rolling down Main Street, if you could call it that. The pavement was perfect, too perfect. Like someone had poured it yesterday but somehow aged it 50 years in a single night. The buildings looked familiar. Not specific familiar, but archetypal familiar. Like someone had studied every small American town and built one from memory. There was Murphy's Diner with its red vinyl booths visible through foggy windows. A barber shop with a real spinning pole. Even a Woolworth's, though I was pretty sure the last Woolworth's closed when I was a kid. Every business had those warm yellow lights in the windows. Every single one. But I couldn't see anybody inside. The strangest part, my rental car's clock had stopped at 2:47. My phone, too. Even my analog watch, all frozen at that exact moment when the GPS died. I needed gas. I needed answers. But mostly, I needed to shake the feeling that I'd driven into a photograph. The Texaco station sat at the corner of Main and what the sign called Evergreen Street. The price board advertised gas at $1.97 a gallon. I actually laughed. Either this was the deal of the century, or I didn't want to think about the alternative. I pulled up to the pump. One of those old ones with the rolling numbers, not digital. The kind I remembered from road trips with my parents in the 90s. It worked, though. Clicked on, gas flowed, numbers rolled. I kept glancing around, waiting for someone to come out and tell me I needed to pay first, but the station remained empty. That's when I noticed the newspaper box. The Millbrook Gazette. Fresh papers inside. I could see the date through the scratched plastic. October 15th, 2019. My hands shook as I filled the tank. 2019. 5 years ago. But the paper looked new, crisp edges, bold black ink. The pump clicked off at exactly $20. I didn't remember authorizing that amount. I walked to the station door, pushed. It opened with a cheerful electronic ding that echoed too long in the empty store. Shelves stocked with candy bars I remembered from childhood. Brands I thought were discontinued. The coffee pot was full, steam rising, but when I touched it, the glass was ice cold. "Hello?" My voice came out smaller than intended. "Anyone here? I need to pay for gas?" Silence. The register was open. Exactly $20 in mixed bills sat on the counter like someone had prepared it. For me. I looked at the money, then back at my car, then at the money again. I left my own 20 and took the change. The motel was 3 blocks down. The Sleepy Pines Motor Lodge. Of course it was. Neon vacancy, sign buzzing, painting everything pink. The office door was propped open with a rock. I'd tell myself I was just tired, that I'd sleep for a few hours, wait for dawn, and figure this out with a clear head. But part of me already knew dawn wasn't coming. Not to this place. The lobby smelled like old carpet and something floral. Grandmother's house, floral. A bell sat on the counter with a sign, ring for service. I rang it. The sound was wrong. Not sharp and metallic, but muffled, like ringing a bell underwater. "Be right with you!" I jumped. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, feminine, cheerful. The kind of customer service voice that makes you uncomfortable because nobody's that happy at 3 a.m. A woman emerged from the back office. Middle-aged, polyester uniform, name tag reading Dolores. Her smile was too wide, showing too many teeth, but I told myself it was just the fluorescent lighting playing tricks. "Well, hello there, stranger. Looking for a room?" I nodded, couldn't find my voice. "First time in Millbrook?" Another nod. "How wonderful. We don't get many visitors. You'll love it here. Everyone does." She slid a registration card across the counter. "Just fill this out and we'll get you settled." The pen felt heavy. The questions on the card seemed normal enough. Name, address, vehicle information. But at the bottom, in small print, length of stay. The options were 1 night, 1 week, 1 month, forever. My hand hovered over 1 night. "Oh, honey," Dolores said. That too-wide smile never wavering. "Nobody ever stays just 1 night in Millbrook." I marked 1 night anyway. Signed my name. Slid it back. She handed me a key, actual metal key on a plastic diamond-shaped tag. Room 9. "Breakfast is served in the diner from 6 to 10. Though time's a funny thing here, you'll see." She winked. "Sweet dreams." Room 9 was exactly what you'd expect. Wood paneling, floral bedspread. Box TV with rabbit ears. A rotary phone on the nightstand. I picked up the phone. Dial tone. Thank God. I dialed my sister's number from memory. "The number you have dialed is not in service in this area code. Please check the number and try again." I tried my parents, my best friend, 911. Same message, dot every time. I sat on the bed. Springs creaked. The mirror across from me showed my reflection, but delayed? Like a fraction of a second off, I moved my hand. Mirror me moved his hand just after. The bathroom faucet dripped. Consistent. Rhythmic. Almost like Morse code. I counted the drips, trying to find a pattern, but gave up when I realized I was looking for meaning in a leaky pipe. The TV turned on by itself. Static at first, then pictures. Not shows. Pictures like a slideshow. Black and white photographs of the town, the diner, the gas station, the motel, but older, much older. And in every photo, people, dozens of them, all smiling, all looking directly at the camera, all with eyes that seemed to track my movement across the room. I unplugged the TV. It kept playing. I didn't sleep. How could I? The clock beside the bed never moved past 2:47. Neither did the darkness outside. I'd been in that room for what felt like hours, but time had stopped isn't the right word. Time had become irrelevant. Around what should have been dawn, I heard voices outside, muffled conversation, footsteps on the walkway, car doors slamming, the sounds of a town waking up. I peered through the curtains. People. Finally. Real people walking down Main Street, opening shops, sweeping sidewalks, normal small-town morning activities, except they all moved in patterns, like a video game with NPCs on set paths. The man sweeping in front of the barber shop would sweep to the corner, pause, turn around, and sweep back, over and over. The woman walking her dog would go 3 blocks, stop at the exact same spot, turn around, and walk back. The dog never sniffed anything, never pulled on the leash, just walked. I had to get out of that room. The diner was busy, every booth filled, conversation humming. The smell of bacon and coffee should have been comforting. Instead, it made my stomach turn. Too perfect. Too much like the idea of a diner breakfast. I slid into the only empty booth. Red vinyl stuck to my jeans. "Coffee, hun?" The waitress appeared instantly. Different from Dolores, but somehow exactly the same. Same too wide smile, same teeth. Name tag said Marge. "Please, and a menu?" "Oh, everyone gets the special here. Trust me, you'll love it." She poured coffee that steamed but had no heat. I wrapped my hands around the mug anyway, desperate for the familiar gesture. That's when I started listening to the conversations around me. "Beautiful weather we're having." "Sure is, not a cloud in the sky." "Did you catch the game last night?" "What a game, that last play." Fragments, snippets, like someone had recorded small talk and played it on a loop. And if I listened carefully, really carefully, I could hear it. The exact moment when the conversation started over. "Beautiful weather we're having." I stood up so fast I knocked over the coffee. The mug shattered on the floor. Silence. Every person in the diner turned to look at me, in perfect unison, like synchronized swimmers of the damned. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up." "No worries, hun." Marge appeared with a mop, that smile never faltering. "Accidents happen, though not usually here. We'll get you a fresh cup." She mopped up the coffee. The broken mug disappeared. A new one materialized on my table, full, steaming, like nothing had happened. I ran. Outside, the town continued its morning routine. I tried to look casual, like I belonged, but my heart hammered against my ribs. The barber shop man swept, the dog lady walked. Everything exactly as before. I needed my car, I needed to leave. But when I reached the motel parking lot, my rental wasn't there. In its place sat a 1994 Ford Taurus. Beige, the kind of car that's aggressively forgettable. The key in my pocket had changed too. Ford logo instead of Nissan. The doors unlocked. My stuff was inside, phone, wallet, even the half-empty water bottle in the cup holder. But it wasn't my car. I got in anyway. What choice did I have? The engine started. The gas tank was full. The clock read 2:47. I drove, out of the parking lot, down Main Street, past the unchanged buildings and their synchronized occupants. I reached the town limits, a sign reading, "Thank you for visiting Millbrook, come back soon," and kept going. The road curved. Buildings appeared. Murphy's Diner. The Texaco. The Woolworths. I was driving back into town, from the opposite direction. I tried again, faster this time. Blew past the speed limit. The speedometer climbed. 60, 70, 80. The town disappeared in my mirrors, then reappeared in my windshield. No matter which direction I drove, no matter which turn I took, every road led back to Main Street. The town was a loop, a closed circuit, a trap. I pulled over in front of the diner, sat there, hands shaking on the wheel, trying to make sense of it. That's when I noticed the newspaper box had changed. Still, the Millbrook Gazette. But now, the date read October 15th, 1987. 37 years ago. The library was my next stop. A small building, brick facade, looked like every small-town library in America. Inside, it smelled like old paper and lemon furniture polish, empty except for the librarian. A woman who could have been anywhere from 40 to 70, hair in a tight bun, glasses on a chain. Her name tag read, Mrs. Henderson. Help you find something? Her voice was whisper-soft, but carried across the silent space. Maps. I need maps of the area, recent ones. She tilted her head. Not much, just enough to seem wrong. Oh, we don't keep maps here, no need. Everyone knows where everything is in Millbrook. Highway maps then, state maps, anything. I'm afraid those wouldn't be much use. Millbrook isn't on any maps. She smiled, not the too wide smile of the others. A sad smile, almost pitying. Hasn't been for a very long time. What do you mean? She moved from behind the desk, walked to a section labeled Local History, pulled out a leather-bound book and handed it to me. This might help, or it might not. Depends on what you're ready to accept. The book was heavy, older than anything else I'd seen here. The cover had no title, just a symbol I didn't recognize. Inside, newspaper clippings, photos, handwritten notes. The first clipping, Town of Millbrook disappears, October 15th, 1952. State investigators found no trace of the 847 residents. The second, mass hallucination or hoax. Drivers report seeing vanished town, 1,967 inches. The third made my blood freeze. California man claims he spent night in non-existent town, October 2019. There was a photo with that one. Grainy. Taken from a security camera maybe, but I recognized the face. It was me. Standing in front of the Texaco, 5 years ago. But I'd never been here before, I was sure of it. I would remember. Wouldn't I? You're starting to remember. Mrs. Henderson was watching me. Not with the empty pleasantness of the others. With something that might have been sympathy. I've never been here before, I said. But the words felt hollow. Haven't you? Check your wallet. I did. Driver's license, credit cards, everything normal. Except there was a Millbrook Public Library card. Laminated. Worn at the edges like I'd carried it for years. Issue date, October 15th, 1987. That's impossible. Is it? You've been very good at forgetting. Most are. That's what makes it easier. The forgetting. She moved closer, lowered her voice. But some of us can't forget, won't forget. We're the ones who remember what Millbrook was. Before. Before what? She glanced around the empty library like someone might be listening. Before the loop, before the town got stuck, before we all got stuck with it. You're saying this town is... what? Frozen in time? Not frozen, repeating like a record skip. Same day, over and over, but the years keep sliding around. 1952, 1987, 2019. Whenever someone new arrives, the year adjusts, trying to find the right frequency. My head spun. So everyone here is trapped? Everyone here is part of it now. Most don't know, can't know. Their minds adapted, you see. Became part of the pattern. They're happy because the loop tells them to be happy. She touched my hand. Her skin was ice cold. But a few of us remember, and we wait for people like you. People like me. The ones who've been here before. The ones who escaped but got pulled back. You don't remember leaving, do you? But you did. October 16th, 2019. You drove out as the sun came up and forgot everything the moment you crossed the town line. But Millbrook doesn't forget. Millbrook always calls you back. I jerked my hand away. You're insane. Am I? Then how do you explain the library card, the newspaper photo, the car that isn't yours but has your things? She pulled out another book, smaller, newer. Here, page 43. I opened it. Page 43 was a photo, me again, but younger, maybe college age, standing in front of the Sleepy Pines Motor Lodge, smiling, arm around a girl I didn't recognize. No, that wasn't true. I did recognize her. Somewhere deep, beneath layers of forced forgetting, I knew that face. Sarah. Her name was Sarah. She stayed, Mrs. Henderson whispered. When you left that first time, she stayed. The town needed someone to stay, to keep the circuit complete so you could leave. Memories crashed through whatever dam had held them back. That road trip after graduation, getting lost, finding Millbrook, meeting Sarah in the diner. She worked there. We talked all night. 3 days in this impossible town. Falling in, no, it wasn't real, couldn't be real. Where is she? Mrs. Henderson's sad smile returned. Where do you think? The diner. It's always the diner. That's where the loop is strongest. I ran. Through the library doors, down Main Street, past the synchronized townspeople who didn't react to my desperate sprint. The diner grew larger with each step, like it was pulling me in. I burst through the door, there, behind the counter, pouring coffee for a customer who might have been real or might have been another part of the pattern. Sarah, exactly as I remembered, as I was suddenly remembering. She hadn't aged a day because days didn't age here. She looked up. Our eyes met. For a moment, nothing. Then recognition flickered. You came back. Her voice was exactly as I remembered, had forgotten, was remembering. I knew you would. Sarah, Shh. She came around the counter, touched my face. Her hands were warm, the only warm thing I'd felt since arriving. It's okay, you forgot. That was the deal. You'd forget and live your life, and I'd stay and keep the town running. But I knew you'd come back. The town always brings them back. This is insane. None of this is real. It's as real as anything else. She led me to a booth. Our booth. How did I know it was our booth? Sit, let me get you coffee. Real coffee this time, not the loop coffee. She disappeared into the kitchen. I sat, mind reeling, trying to piece together memories that felt like dreams. That summer, this place, her, a newspaper on the table caught my eye. The Millbrook Gazette, today's date, whatever today meant here. The headline, Visitor returns to Millbrook after 5-year absence. Below it, a photo of my rental car at the gas station. Taken hours ago, or years. Time had no meaning here. Sarah returned with coffee. It smelled real, tasted real, burned my tongue in a wonderfully real way. I work the morning shift, she said, sitting across from me. Every morning, pour coffee, take orders, smile. It's not bad, better than some loops. How long have you been here? Since 1987, or 1952, or 2019, depends on how you count, time's funny in the loop. But you were my age when we met. In college, that was... I tried to do the math, but numbers scattered like startled birds. I was, I am, I will be. The loop keeps us as we were when we entered. Preserves us, like insects in amber. She sipped her coffee. Do you remember what happened? Why the town is like this? I shook my head. Neither do I. Nobody does. Mrs. Henderson has theories. Something about an experiment. Government, maybe. Or something older. Doesn't matter. What matters is we're here. The town needs people to function. To maintain the loop. And sometimes, when there aren't enough, it calls back the ones who left. I can leave again? Her smile was sad. Sure. Drive to the town limits. Keep driving until the sun comes up. You'll forget again. Live another 5 years, 10 years, however long until the town needs you. Then you'll find yourself on a dark highway with a broken GPS and a quarter tank of gas. She reached across the table, took my hand. Or you could stay. I wanted to pull away, run, get in that car that wasn't mine and drive until... Until what? Until I forgot again? Until I lived another half-decade not knowing this place existed, not knowing she existed, not knowing I'd already made this choice before? What happens if I stay? You become part of it, part of the pattern, part of Millbrook. She squeezed my hand. But you remember. Not like the others, you'd remember me. Remember us. Isn't that better than forgetting? I have a life out there, job, friends, family. Do you? Check your phone. I did. No contacts, no photos, no history. Just a black screen that reflected a face I wasn't sure was mine anymore. The loop takes that too, she said. Each time you leave and come back, you lose a little more of out there. Eventually, there's nothing left to go back to, just here, just us, just Millbrook. The diner door chimed, a new customer. Sarah stood, grabbed the coffee pot. Duty called. The pattern demanded service. I sat there watching her work, watching the synchronized dance of small-town life that wasn't life at all. Outside, it was still dark. Still 2:47. Always 2:47 at the moment of choosing. That's when I noticed the other booth, in the corner. A man sat there, staring at his coffee. He looked familiar, tired, defeated. He looked like me. Older, grayer, but me. Our eyes met. He nodded once, raised his mug in a mock toast. Then went back to staring at nothing. How many times had I been here? How many times had I made this choice? How many versions of me sat in this diner, trapped in different years, different moments of the same eternal day? Sarah returned. Saw where I was looking. That's Mr. Johnson. Been here since '52. Least that's what he says. Nice enough. Quiet. Drinks his coffee black. Is he me? Does it matter? We're all somebody here. All somebody who was somebody else before. The loop doesn't care about then, only now. I left the diner. Had to. The walls were closing in. The truth was closing in. Outside, Millbrook continued its endless morning routine. But now, I saw it differently, saw the cracks. The man sweeping wasn't just repeating motions. He was stuck in a single moment of contentment. The last moment before whatever happened to trap this town. The woman with the dog wasn't walking a pet. She was walking a memory of a pet. Everything here was memory made manifest. Echoes of a town that once was. I found myself at the gas station again. The Texaco sign buzzed and flickered. $1.97 a gallon. Would always be $1.97 a gallon. That's when I saw him. A kid, maybe 17, pumping gas into a pickup truck that had seen better decades. He looked lost, confused, scared. He looked exactly like I must have looked, hours ago, years ago, time ago. "Hey," I called out. "You okay?" He startled. No. My phone died. GPS, too. Just needed gas, but this place..." He gestured at the empty station. "It's weird, right? Like, where is everyone?" I could have lied. Could have played along, pointed him toward the motel. Let the loop take him like it took me. Like it took all of us. Instead, I said, "Get in your truck. Drive. Don't stop. Don't look back. Drive until the sun comes up." "What? Why? What's wrong with this place?" "Everything. Nothing. Both." I moved closer. Lowered my voice. "This town isn't on any map because it isn't supposed to exist. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. If you stay, you become part of it. Part of something that repeats forever." His eyes went wide. "You're crazy." "Maybe. Probably. But I'm also right. Look at the newspaper in that box. Check the date." He did. I watched his face change as he processed the impossibility. October 15th, 1987? That's That's not possible. Nothing here is possible, that's the point. Drive. Now, while you still can, while you still remember you want to. He looked at me, at the town, at the newspaper, then scrambled into his truck. The engine roared to life, tires squealed, he was gone, racing toward the town limits, toward freedom, toward forgetting. I hoped he made it. I hoped the sun would rise for him, but I already knew it wouldn't. Not really. He'd be back. Different car, different year, same lost look, same quarter tank of gas. The loop needed feeding. Always needed feeding. That was kind of you. Mrs. Henderson stood beside me. I hadn't heard her approach. Was it? He'll just come back. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes the warning is enough. Sometimes people listen. Drive far enough, fast enough. Break free before the loop takes hold. She adjusted her glasses. You listened once. That's how you got out the first time. Someone warned me. Sarah did, told you to run, told you to forget, sacrificed her freedom for yours. She studied me with those librarian eyes that had seen too much. But the heart's a funny thing. Doesn't forget as easy as the mind. That's why you're back. Not because the town called, because she did. I walked. No destination, just walked. Past the barber shop, where the same man would sweep forever. Past the Woolworths, frozen in retail amber. Past houses where families repeated the same morning routines, the same conversations, the same perfect moments before the loop locked them in. The park was empty. Swings moved without wind. A fountain ran without water. Bench seats worn by ghosts of summer afternoons that never ended. I sat, tried to think, tried to remember, tried to forget. A dog ran up, no leash, no owner, just a golden retriever with eyes too knowing for an animal. It sat beside me, waited. You're not part of the pattern, I said. The dog tilted its head. You're like Mrs. Henderson, like Sarah, aware, watching. Why? It put its head on my knee, warm, real, a comfort I didn't deserve. That's when I understood. The dog wasn't trapped. It chose to stay, like Sarah chose, like Mrs. Henderson chose, like all the aware ones chose. Because even a looping prison was better than abandoning the others to it. Better than leaving them to repeat alone. Is that what happens? I asked the dog. Stay long enough and you become a guardian, a keeper of the loop? It licked my hand. Answer enough. The weight of it crushed me. This wasn't just about escape. It was about responsibility. The town needed caretakers, people who remembered, who could guide the lost, comfort the trapped, keep the pattern from degrading into something worse than repetition. Because that was the real horror. Not that the loop existed, but that without maintenance, without memory, it would decay. The synchronized movements would become jerky. The smiles would slip. The perfect morning would rot into endless nightmare, and the people trapped inside would suffer without knowing why. Sarah knew this, had known it when she let me go, had known she was choosing not just to stay but to serve, to pour coffee and take orders and smile while keeping the darkness at bay. I found her at the diner as the eternal breakfast rush wound down. She was wiping tables, humming something I almost recognized. An old song. Our song. Did we have a song? Made your choice? She asked without looking up. How do you stand it? The same day, the same people, the same everything. It's not the same, not really. Little variations. Mr. Thompson orders eggs over easy instead of scrambled sometimes. Mrs. Murphy tells different stories about her grandchildren who never visit because they never existed. The coffee tastes different depending on my mood. She finally looked at me. And sometimes, people like you show up. Make things interesting. People like me. How many? Over the years, dozens, maybe hundreds. Most don't stay. Most can't handle the weight of knowing. They run, forget, live their lives until the town calls them back for another try. She moved closer. "But if you stay, become part of the solution instead of the problem. Is that what you want? For me to stay? I want you to choose, really choose, not because you're scared, not because you're confused, but because you understand what staying means." She touched my cheek. "It means forever, you know. The loop doesn't age us, but it doesn't let us go either. We become Millbrook, and Millbrook becomes us." I caught her hand, held it. "What about the kid, the one I sent away? Tommy Watson, he'll make it out. Forget by sunrise. Live 63 years in Phoenix. Die in his sleep surrounded by grandchildren. Happy." Her eyes were distant, seeing futures that would never touch this place. "Then, one night his grandson will take a wrong turn coming back from Vegas. Find a town that's not on any map, and the cycle continues. You can see that? Stay long enough, you see all the possibilities, all the loops, past, present, future. They're all happening at once here. All equally real." She pulled her hand away. "I need to prep for the lunch rush, same as the breakfast rush, but we call it something different. Helps with the illusion of progress." She started to go. I caught her arm. "If I stay, if I really stay, what happens to us?" Sarah smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen since arriving. "We get to find out. That's the gift, you see. In a place where everything repeats, we get to be the variables. The chaos in the pattern. The love story that writes itself new every day even when the day never changes. That's enough? It has to be. Because the alternative is out there, forgetting. Living a half-life always feeling like something's missing but never knowing what." She kissed me. Quick, soft, a promise of eternities. "Choose, but choose soon. The breakfast rush starts again in 10 minutes. Or 10 years. Time's funny here." I stood in the middle of Main Street, the exact center of town according to a brass plaque I hadn't noticed before. Or maybe it hadn't been there before. Hard to tell in a place where geography was as fluid as time. My car waited at the curb, engine running, tank full. The road out was clear. I could drive, hit the town limits, push through whatever barrier kept this place separate from the world. Forget again. Live again. Die again, never knowing what I'd lost. Or I could stay, pour coffee, stock shelves, sweep sidewalks, whatever role the town needed. Whatever kept the loop stable and the trapped as comfortable as ignorance allowed. I could be with Sarah, remember her, love her in a place outside time where love was the only thing that changed. The clock on the bank still read 2:47, always 2:47 at the moment of choosing. I thought about you, yeah, you, the person listening to this, comfortable in your bed, safe in your certainty that small towns might be creepy, but they're still bound by the rules of reality. What would you choose? The familiar horror of a normal life where everything ends, or the unfamiliar eternity of a single day where nothing does? Don't answer too quick, because here's the thing about Millbrook. It's not the only one. There are towns like this scattered all over. Places that slipped through the cracks, got stuck between moments. Maybe you've driven through one, felt that wrongness in your gut, saw that too perfect diner, that too friendly smile, and you kept driving because some ancient instinct told you to. Good. Keep driving. Unless you're already looking for something, already feeling that emptiness, that sense that you've forgotten something vital, someone vital. Then maybe, just maybe, you should stop at that diner. Order that coffee, see if the waitress's smile reaches her eyes. See if she's been waiting for you to remember, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Or behind. Time's funny here. I made my choice. I'm still here, typing this on a computer that shouldn't exist in a library that updates itself to match whatever year the newest visitor expects. Mrs. Henderson taught me that trick. How to reach out, leave messages, breadcrumbs for the lost to follow. Some nights I work at the gas station. Pump gas for travelers who don't know they're about to make the most important decision of their lives. Sometimes I warn them. Sometimes I don't. Depends on what I see in their eyes. The ones running from something need to keep running. The ones running to something, well, sometimes what they're looking for is right here. Sarah and I live above the diner now. Same apartment she's had since 1987 or 1952. The years blend together, but our story stays fresh. We find new ways to love each other between the breakfast rush and the lunch that's really just breakfast again. We dance to songs on the jukebox that haven't been recorded yet. We watch movies at the drive-in that closed before we were born. It's not a bad life, or death, or whatever you call existence in a place that exists between. But here's the thing, the real reason I'm telling you this. The reason Mrs. Henderson helped me send this story out into your world. The loop is spreading. Slowly, carefully, one town at a time. Places disappear from maps. GPS signals die. Phones lose service. And somewhere in the darkness, warm yellow lights promise comfort to the lost. Maybe it's a natural phenomenon. Maybe reality just gets tired sometimes. Needs to rest. Loop a while before moving forward again. Or maybe something else is happening. Something intentional. Something that thinks eternity is better than ending. I don't know. Nobody knows, not even Mrs. Henderson, and she's been here since the beginning. Whenever that was. What I do know is this. Pay attention. When you're driving late at night and see those lights off the highway. When your GPS dies at exactly 2:47. When you find a town that feels like a memory of a town, trust your gut. If it says run, then run. Drive until sunrise. Don't look back. But if it says stay, if something in those warm lights calls to a part of you that's been empty, then maybe you're already one of us. Maybe you've been here before, maybe someone's waiting for you to remember. Either way, make your choice, because in places like Millbrook, choosing is the only freedom left. Oh, and one more thing. You know how I said I was typing this in the library? It wasn't quite true. I mean, it was true when I started. But time's funny here. Now I'm in the diner. Now I'm at the gas station. Now I'm everywhere in Millbrook at once because I've been here long enough to be part of the pattern. But I can still see out. Still see your world racing past while we spin in place. And I can see the cracks forming. The places where your reality is getting thin. Getting tired. Getting ready to loop. Small towns are going first. Always the small towns. The ones nobody notices when they disappear. But it won't stop there. Can't stop there. The loop is hungry, needs feeding, needs people to maintain it, to remember for those who can't. So when you notice things repeating, when your barista makes the same joke every morning, when your neighbor walks their dog at the exact same time, when the news starts sounding like yesterday's news, pay attention. The loop might be calling, might be offering you a chance to step out of time, to find your Sarah. Your reason to stay. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Millbrook is unique. A glitch. An anomaly. Maybe you'll never see those warm yellow lights or feel that pull toward a place that shouldn't exist. But somehow I don't think so. Somehow I think you're already looking for us. Already driving dark highways with a quarter tank of gas and a broken GPS. Already knowing that somewhere, somewhen, there's a diner with your booth waiting. Coffee that's always fresh. A smile that remembers you even when you don't remember yourself. The clock still reads 2:47. It always will. And will be here when you're ready to stop running. Welcome to Millbrook. Population. Everyone who ever got lost and never wanted to be found. Now, here's the question that should keep you up at night. The one that'll make you look twice at every small town. Question every too perfect moment. Wonder if maybe, just maybe, you're already in a loop and don't know it. When you woke up this morning, did your clock say 2:47? Think about it. And if you need to know more, if this story has awakened something in you, A memory that's not quite a memory. A longing for a place you've never been but somehow know. Well, the comments are right below. Tell me about your town. The one that feels a little too perfect, a little too familiar. Tell me about the time you got lost and found something you weren't looking for, because every story shared brings us closer to understanding. Every comment is a breadcrumb. Every like is a signal fire for the lost. And who knows, maybe your story will be the one that helps someone else recognize the signs. Make the choice, find their Sarah, or run. Run far, run fast, before the lights find you too. The breakfast rush is starting again. I need to go, Sarah's waiting. The coffee won't pour itself. And somewhere out there, someone's GPS is about to die at exactly 2:47. Maybe it's yours. Sweet dreams. And drive safe. You never know what's waiting. Just off the highway. In a town that's not on any map.